The town was dead. No wind, no birds, no life. A lone man walked in, and what he found would change everything forever. Before we start, join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now let's get into the story. They said the town had been dead for years. Not abandoned, not empty, dead. No birds circled above it. No wind crossed its streets. Even the dust out in the wild plains seemed to stop at the edge, like it knew better than to enter. And yet, on that burning afternoon, a lone man walked straight into it. Hat low, coat torn, boots dragging like they carried the weight of a past that refused to let go. People would later say that was the moment everything changed. But that's not the real story. The real story begins long before he stepped into that town. It begins with a man who once believed he could save a place like that. Elias Crow. Before the silence, before the blood, Elias Crow was just a man trying to live quietly. Red Hollow was never a rich town. Dry land, long summers, hard winters. But it was alive. You could hear it in the mornings. The creak of wooden doors, the distant clang of the blacksmith, children laughing as they chased each other through dust that glowed gold in the sunlight. Elias stayed on the edge of it all. Not a sheriff, not a hero, just someone people went to when things got bad. Because Elias didn't talk much, and men who don't talk much usually mean what they do. He had a small cabin just outside town. Nothing special, just wood, a bed, a table, and a view of open land that stretched forever. It was enough, more than enough, because Elias wasn't running toward anything. He was running away from a past no one in Red Hollow knew about. And he intended to keep it that way. For a while, it worked. Days were simple. Fix a fence, help a neighbor, ride into town for supplies. Nights were quiet, too quiet sometimes, because silence has a way of bringing back memories. Gunshots that never really fade, faces that never really leave. But Elias had learned how to live with that, or at least how to pretend. Everything changed the day the train arrived. You could hear it before you saw it. A low rumble in the distance, then a vibration in the ground, then that long, screaming whistle cutting through the sky like something unnatural. People gathered near the tracks, some curious, some excited, some uneasy. Elias stood farther back, watching, waiting, because men like him don't trust things that arrive too loudly. The train rolled in slow, metal grinding, steam hissing. And when it stopped, for a moment nothing happened. No one stepped out, no movement, just silence. Then the door opened, and everything changed. Victor Hale stepped down like he already owned the ground beneath him. Black coat, clean boots, eyes that didn't blink enough. He didn't look around like a stranger. He looked around like a man measuring what was his. Behind him came others, not townsfolk, not workers, men who carried themselves like they were used to being feared. Hands close to their weapons, eyes scanning everything. Elias saw it immediately. This wasn't opportunity, this was control arriving on rails. At first, nothing obvious happened. No threats, no violence. Victor Hale smiled, shook hands, spoke softly. He bought the saloon within 2 days, paid more than it was worth. No negotiation, just ownership. Then came the land, small pieces at first. A field here, a stable there. People sold easily, because the price was good. Too good. That's what made Elias uneasy, because when a man pays too much, he's not buying, he's taking. Within a week, things started to feel different. The town still looked the same buildings, same streets, but the feeling changed. Laughter faded quicker. Conversations ended when certain men walked by. Doors closed earlier. Even the wind felt colder somehow, like it carried something with it, something watching. Elias kept observing. He didn't act. Not yet, because men like Victor Hale always reveal themselves. You just have to wait. The moment came at night, late, when the town should have been asleep. 3 gunshots, sharp, close together. They echoed through the valley, and then nothing. No shouting. No running, just silence. The kind of silence that feels wrong. Elias was already moving before the echo faded, boots hitting dirt, hand near his revolver. He followed the sound to the edge of town, A small farmhouse, or what was left of it. Smoke curled into the sky. The door hung open, and inside, everything had ended. Caleb Briggs lay on the floor, still, cold, eyes open like he never understood what was happening. His wife sat against the wall, not crying, not screaming, just staring, like something inside her had already left. Elias didn't need to ask what happened. He already knew, because Caleb had refused to sell his land, and now he didn't have it anymore. By morning, the town had buried him. Quickly, quietly. No questions, no accusations, just fear. Elias watched it happen, watched people avoid looking at each other, watched them pretend this was normal. That's when he understood. This wasn't about land, this was about control through fear. And it was working. More people started selling, not because they wanted to, but because they didn't want to end up in the ground. Victor Hale never said a word about it. He didn't need to. The message was already clear. Elias couldn't ignore it anymore. That evening he walked into the saloon, every step loud against the wooden floor, every eye turning toward him. Even Hale's men shifted slightly, because they knew who he was. Victor Hale sat near the window, calm, relaxed, like nothing in the world could touch him. Elias stopped at his table. Silence filled the room. Hale took a slow sip of whiskey, then finally looked up. A faint smile. "You must be Crow." Elias didn't respond. Hale studied him, like a man examining something rare. "I've heard about you." Still nothing. Elias finally spoke. Low, steady. "You're going to leave." A few men laughed. Nervous, forced. Hale didn't. He set his glass down carefully. "You think this town is yours?" Elias shook his head. "No." A pause. Then, "But it's not yours either." The air tightened, something invisible snapping between them. Hale leaned back slightly, smile fading just enough to show something colder underneath. "You're a good man, Crow. A beat. That's your weakness." Elias didn't move, didn't blink. Hale continued softly. "Good men believe in lines." Another pause. "I don't." That was the moment everything shifted. Not with a gunshot, not with a fight, but with understanding. Elias realized this wasn't a man he could reason with. This wasn't a man he could scare. Victor Hale wasn't playing by any rules. And that meant one thing. Someone was going to die. That night, Elias made a choice he couldn't take back. He went home, packed what little he had, loaded his revolver, checked every round, sat in silence for a long time, because he knew what came next. War, not the kind with armies, the kind where no one wins, and no one forgets. Morning came heavy. The sun rose like it didn't care what was about to happen. Elias walked back into town, slow, steady, every step deliberate, and before noon, everything fell apart. Gunfire echoed through Red Hollow, loud, relentless. People ran, screamed, hid, and when it ended, the street was filled with bodies. Men loyal to Victor Hale, gone, and in the center of it all stood Elias Crow, gun in hand, breathing slow, alive, but alone. Because when the smoke cleared, no one saw a protector anymore. They saw a killer. And somewhere, watching from the shadows, Victor Hale smiled. Because this was exactly what he wanted. Victor Hale didn't strike back. Not right away. That was the first thing Elias noticed. No revenge. No threats. Just silence. And somehow that silence felt heavier than gunfire. The town turned on Elias. Not loudly. Quietly. People avoided him. Shops closed early when he passed. Old friends stopped speaking. To them it didn't matter why he did it. All they saw were bodies in the street, and Elias standing among them, a killer. Elias didn't argue, didn't explain, because he understood something now. Fear doesn't care about truth. It only cares about survival. And right now, the town was choosing fear. Days passed. Too quiet. Too still. Hale's men were gone from the streets, but that didn't mean they were gone. It meant they were waiting, watching. Then it happened, not at night. In broad daylight, the kind of daylight that makes everything feel safe. That's why it worked. A child screamed first, then another voice, then chaos. Elias turned. Smoke rising from the far side of town. Not one building, 3. Fire spreading fast. People running, confused, terrified. Elias moved instantly, grabbing buckets, shouting orders, trying to control something that was never meant to be controlled. But this wasn't just fire, it was distraction. Because while the town burned, Hale made his real move. Elias saw it too late. Men on horseback, fast, organized, heading straight for the center, for the people, for the ones who hadn't sold yet. Elias ran, heart pounding, boots slamming against dirt. But he was one man, and this was planned, perfectly planned. By the time he reached them, it was already over. Men beaten, dragged, forced to sign away everything. And those who refused, left bleeding in the dust. Elias raised his gun, fired. One man dropped, then another. Chaos again. But not enough. Never enough. Because Hale wasn't there. He was never there. He didn't need to be. This was control. From a distance, clean, untouchable. Elias stood there, breathing hard, watching the damage settle in. And that's when he understood the truth. He hadn't stopped Hale. He had played right into his hands. Now the town didn't just fear Hale, they feared Elias too. And that fear, that division, was exactly what Hale needed. That night, Elias sat alone outside his cabin, the fire in town still glowing faintly on the horizon. Everything felt broken. The town, the people, himself. He looked down at his hands, hands that once protected, now only knew how to destroy. For the first time, Elias felt something heavier than guilt, doubt, because no matter what he did, people suffered. If he acted, blood followed. If he didn't, Hale won. There was no right choice anymore, only consequences. And then, in the distance, a sound, faint, unnatural, not wind, not animals, something else. Elias stood slowly, eyes narrowing, listening carefully. The sound came again, like metal scraping, echoing from far beyond the hills, from a place no one went, a place people avoided. The dead town, the one people whispered about, the one no one returned from. Elias stared into the darkness. Something pulled at him. Not fear, not curiosity, something deeper, like the past calling him forward, like an answer waiting. For the first time in days, Elias made a decision that wasn't about the town, or Hale, or anyone else. He would leave, not to run, but to find something that could change this, because fighting Hale the same way was never going to work. And deep down, Elias knew it. He turned back once, looking at Red Hollow, at the place he tried to protect, now slipping through his fingers, and without another word, he walked into the night, toward the dead town, alone, not knowing that what he would find there would change everything forever. By the time Elias Crow reached the edge of the dead town, the sun was already falling behind the hills. The sky burned orange, then faded into something colder. The land around him felt wrong, not empty, not silent. Wrong. Even his horse refused to go further. It stopped, snorted, stepped back like it sensed something Elias couldn't see. So he continued on foot, each step slow. Careful. The town stood ahead like a memory no one wanted. Broken buildings, half-collapsed roofs, doors hanging loose like they were tired of waiting. No tracks, no footprints, just stillness. But not peaceful stillness, the kind that watches you. Elias stepped into the street. The sound of his boots echoed too loudly, like the town was amplifying every movement. Testing him, he stopped, listened. Nothing, no wind, no animals, not even insects, dead, just like they said. But something didn't sit right, because places don't die like this, not naturally. Elias moved forward, past an old saloon with shattered windows, past a general store with faded signs barely holding on. Then he saw it. Marks in the dust. Faint, almost invisible. But there. Not fresh, but not old either. Someone had been here. Recently. Elias crouched, ran his fingers along the ground. The tracks were careful, measured, like whoever made them didn't want to be found. That meant one thing. This town wasn't empty. It was hidden. Elias stood, hand near his revolver, scanning everything now. The silence shifted. Not broken, but thinner. Like something behind it was waiting to breathe. He followed the tracks. Step by step, they led him deeper, toward the far end of town, where the buildings looked older, stronger, built to last. And then he saw the entrance, half buried beneath collapsed wood and dust. A structure beneath the town, not visible unless you knew where to look. Elias brushed debris aside, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. Dark, cold, unknown. He paused. Most men would turn back, but Elias wasn't most men. He lit a small lantern, took a breath, and stepped down. The air changed instantly, cooler, heavier, like stepping into a place forgotten by time. The stairs creaked under his weight, each step echoing softly into the darkness below. Then the ground leveled, a tunnel, wide enough for carts. Old rails ran along the floor, mining tracks. This town wasn't just a town, it was built on something. Elias moved forward, lantern light dancing along stone walls, shadows shifting. The deeper he went, the clearer it became. This wasn't abandoned, it was sealed. On purpose, he found tools, old crates, rust but not complete decay, signs of life, hidden life. Then a sound, a faint scrape. Behind him, Elias turned instantly. Gun raised. Silence. Then, a voice. Put that down, unless you plan on dying fast. Elias didn't lower the gun, but he didn't fire either. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Old, bearded, eyes sharp despite the years. Not afraid, not surprised, like he had been expecting someone. Eventually. You're not one of Hale's men, the old man said. Elias studied him. No. A pause. Then you're either lost or desperate. Elias slowly lowered his weapon. Maybe both. The old man nodded slightly. Good, that means you might listen. Elias glanced around. You live here? Survive here, the man corrected. Another figure emerged. Then another. Not many. 5, maybe 6 people. Hidden, watching. This town wasn't dead. It was hiding. Elias asked quietly. What is this place? The old man stepped closer. This is what's left. Of what? The man held his gaze. Of a mistake. Elias frowned. The man continued. Years ago, this town found something underground. Elias looked at the rails. The mine. The man nodded. But it wasn't just ore. A pause. Something else. Elias didn't speak. The old man leaned in slightly. Something men weren't ready to control. Elias's eyes narrowed. What kind of something? The man gave a small, tired smile. The kind people kill for, without understanding. Silence filled the tunnel. Heavy. Elias felt it now. Not fear, recognition, because he had seen men like Hale before. Men who didn't want land. They wanted power. The old man continued. We tried to shut it down, seal it, forget it. He looked around. Most left. A beat. Some of us stayed to make sure it stayed buried. Elias looked back toward the entrance, toward Red Hollow, toward Hale. He's going to find this. The old man nodded. Yes, and when he does, Elias finished. He won't stop. Silence again. Then the old man stepped closer. Which is why you're here. Elias shook his head slightly. I didn't come for this. No, the man said calmly. You came because nothing else worked. That hit harder than expected, because it was true. Elias had tried fighting the normal way, and it failed. The old man studied him. You want to stop him? Elias didn't hesitate. Yes, then you need to understand what you're dealing with. He gestured deeper into the tunnel. Come. Elias followed. They walked for several minutes. Deeper, the air colder, the walls changing. Less natural, more shaped. Then they reached it. A chamber, large, hidden, and at its center, something Elias didn't expect. Machinery, old, complex, connected to the rails, to the earth itself. And beneath it, a faint glow. Not bright, but alive. Elias stepped closer. What is that? The old man's voice dropped. Energy. Elias frowned. The man continued. Not fire, not coal, not anything you've seen before. Elias watched the glow pulse faintly. It never runs out, the man added. A pause. And it can power more than machines. Elias turned. Like what? The old man looked him straight in the eyes. Control. Silence. Heavy realization settling in. Now it made sense. If Hale found this, he wouldn't just own towns, he'd own everything. Elias looked back at the glowing core, then at the people around him. You've been hiding this all this time? Yes. And it worked? The old man gave a dry laugh. Until now. Elias nodded slowly, thinking, processing. For the first time since this started, he saw something different, not just a fight, a possibility, a way to win, but not with bullets, with something else, something Hale didn't expect. Elias turned back to the old man. "Show me how it works." The man studied him carefully. Long pause. Then finally, "All right." And that was the beginning of something Hale would never see coming. By the time Elias Crow stepped back out of the dead town, he was no longer the same man who had walked in. The night air felt different. Sharper. Like the world had edges again. Behind him, the hidden town disappeared into darkness once more, its secret buried beneath wood dust and silence, but not forgotten, not anymore. Elias mounted his horse. For a moment he didn't move. He looked back once, not with doubt, but with purpose. Then he rode. Red Hollow looked smaller when he returned, not physically, but in what it meant. The streets were quieter now, not peaceful, controlled. Hale's presence had settled into everything. Men stood at corners, watching, not hiding anymore. Ownership didn't need to hide. It stood in the open. Elias rode straight through town, no hesitation. Eyes followed him, some filled with fear, some with anger, some with something worse. Hope they didn't want to feel, because hope was dangerous now. Victor Hale heard before he saw. A man like him always did. Elias didn't go to the saloon this time. He didn't go to the center. He went to the edge of town, and he started working. At first no one understood. He didn't fight, didn't shoot, didn't confront anyone. He dug, he carried wood, he dragged metal, old pieces, broken parts, things no one cared about anymore. He worked alone. Day 1, day 2, day 3. People watched from a distance. Confused, whispers started again. What is he doing? Lost his mind. Planning something. Hale's men laughed at first. Then they stopped laughing, because Elias didn't stop. And men who don't stop are dangerous. By the end of the first week, something began to take shape. Not a building. Not exactly. A structure. Low, reinforced, connected to the ground. And then came the next part, the part no one saw. At night, Elias rode out, alone, to the dead town. Every night, returning before dawn, carrying something new each time. Small parts, pieces, tools. The system was coming together. Slowly, carefully, step by step. No rush, no mistakes. Victor Hale finally made his move. He rode out with 4 men, stopped just far enough to watch. Elias didn't stop working, didn't even look up. Hale spoke calmly. "You've been busy." No answer. "You planning to build yourself a little kingdom?" Still nothing. Hale smiled slightly. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" Elias stopped, just for a moment, then continued working. That was the answer. And Hale understood it. This wasn't madness. This was preparation. Hale's smile faded just a little. "Whatever you're building," a pause, "and it won't save you." Elias finally spoke, without looking at him. "It's not meant to—" Silence. Something shifted in the air, because Hale heard something in that tone, something he didn't like. Not fear, not defiance, certainty. That night Hale gave the order, "Burn it, end it before it becomes something." Men moved fast, torches lit. "Horses ready!" They rode under darkness, confident. Because this had always worked before. Destroy the problem early, before it grows. But this time, it was different. Elias was waiting, not standing in the open, not exposed, hidden, watching. The moment the first torch came close, the ground changed. A sharp crack, then another. Wood shifted, metal snapped into place, and suddenly, the structure came alive, not with noise, with force. The torches went out instantly. Steam burst upward, blinding, hot, disorienting. The horses panicked. Men shouted. Confusion. Total. Elias moved through it, silent, precise. "One man down!" Another. Not chaos. Control. Every step planned. Every move calculated. This wasn't a fight. It was execution. Within minutes, it was over. Hale's men lay scattered, not dead, not all of them, but broken, defeated, and Elias, still standing. Word spread fast, faster than fear ever had. He stopped them, alone. No gunfight. Something else. People started watching differently now. Not just fear, not just doubt. Something new. Belief. Victor Hale didn't react with anger. He reacted with focus. Because now, this wasn't control anymore. This was a threat. A real one. The final test came with the storm. Not a normal storm. The kind that tears through land like it has something to prove. Winds howling. Sky black. Lightning splitting the horizon. And right in the middle of it, Hale made his last move. All his men, everything he had. No more quiet control. No more patience. Just force. End it now, or lose everything. They rode into Red Hollow like the storm itself. Fast, relentless, unstoppable. People hid. Doors slammed. Fear returned. But this time, Elias didn't stand in the street. He stood at his structure, calm, ready, waiting. The first wave hit, and the system responded. Not randomly, perfectly. The ground shifted. Paths changed. Horses lost direction. Men separated. The storm made it worse. Visibility gone. Sound distorted. Control lost. Except for one man, Elias. He moved through it like he designed it. Because he had every piece, every path, every response. This wasn't luck. This was understanding. The energy beneath the dead town, the system he built above it. Everything connected. Everything working together. Victor Hale reached him. Finally. Through chaos. Through storm. Face to face. For the first time, there was no control in Hale's eyes. Only realization. You found it, Hale said. Elias didn't deny it. You were never meant to, Hale added. Elias stepped forward. And neither were you. Lightning flashed. Thunder cracked. The world felt like it was holding its breath. Hale drew first. Fast. Precise. But Elias didn't move like before. He didn't react. Because this fight was never about speed. The system shifted again. Just slightly. Just enough. Hale's footing broke. His shot missed. And Elias? Elias didn't. Silence followed. Heavy. Final. The storm began to fade. Slowly, like the world was done watching. Victor Hale fell. Not dramatically, not loudly, just ended. By morning, everything was different. Not because Elias won, but because of how he won. No chaos, no destruction. Control, understanding, system over violence. People stepped out slowly, looking around, at the streets, at the structure, at Elias. And for the first time since all of this began, no one looked away. Elias didn't stay in the center, didn't claim power, didn't speak. He simply stood there, then turned and walked back toward the edge, back toward quiet. The system remained, not hidden, not controlled by one man, but understood, protected, shared. Because Elias knew something now. Power isn't in holding control. It's in knowing how it works, and making sure no one can use it the wrong way again. They would tell stories about that day, about the outlaw who returned, about the storm, about the system beneath their feet. But most of them would get it wrong, because they'd say he saved the town, but that wasn't true. Elias Crow didn't save anything. He changed it, forever. And in doing so, he made sure it would never need saving again.